I think most will agree the new Kia K4 does look better in hatchback form compared with the sedan. This is the top spec GT line, so it comes with all the sporty trimmings, black details around the wheel arches and all of that. And yeah, around at the back, you've got that shooting brake style of almost hot hatch theme going on. Very fat, very wide, amplified by the full width taillight. Hopefully Kia does a proper GT model like the old Cerato GT. So the K4 pretty much replaces the old Cerato, but being the GT line, I think they've done that cleverly and on purpose so it can get away with certain things. For example, the engine, still a 1.6 turbo petrol 4-cylinder, now produces 142 kilowatts and 265 newton meters, down from 150 kilowatts in the old Cerato GT. It's also paired up with an 8-speed torque converter automatic now, replacing the old 7-speed dual clutch automatic. So dual clutch automatics, you know, they have their kind of issues, I guess, in stop-start traffic. They're not as smooth, they're not as relaxing, but they are sportier and more engaging and offer quicker shifts. Being the 8-speed does mean it sort of, yeah, conforms better with the GT line badge, in my opinion anyway. It's also changed in terms of the handling dynamics and even the engine sound. So the Cerato GT, I always liked it because it wasn't necessarily a hot hatch, but it produced a sporty note. The suspension was surprisingly sort of firm and yeah, very braced, which, you know, may not suit a lot of people, but I think, yeah, for the GT, that's okay. If it was applied to the GT line, it wouldn't be able to get away with those sorts of traits. Even so, the new K4 GT line features 18-inch alloy wheels, wrapped in 235/40 hand-cooked tyres, fairly low profile tyres there, so that should give us some, you know, good handling and steering response. And then yeah, all of those black trimmings definitely help it stand out as a sporty package. Interestingly, fuel consumption is up compared with the old Cerato GT, so I'm going to make a few sort of comparisons with the old Cerato GT, because this, for now, unless they do a GT model of the new K4, is pretty much the replacement of the old GT Cerato, if that makes sense. But yeah, fuel consumption is up a little bit from 6.8 litres per 100 to 7.4 in this model. Part of that is due to this being a bit heavier. It's about 50 kilograms heavier, or a little bit more. It's actually pretty much the same size. The old Cerato GT hatch was actually 70 millimeters longer than this hatchback, but this features a 20 millimeter longer wheelbase, which gives you a bit of an idea of the extra cabin space and passenger legroom and all that sort of stuff. It's also fitted with a lot more luxuries and electronics and all that sort of thing, which would add weight. Taking a look inside, it's kind of sporty, but not as sporty as the old Cerato GT. Again, this is a GT line, so it doesn't have the red stitching or anything like that. But you've got decent side bolsters there on the sport seats in the front. Lots of white trimmings, but it's good to see they haven't got white on touch points like the armrest and even the center console storage box there, or armrest as well, because it ends up just getting dirty. Even the steering wheel, it's got black on the outside. You're not really going to touch the inside there, so that shouldn't show the dirt and marks and all that sort of thing. And then the driving position is spot on for me. I'm 170 centimeters. I can find a, yeah, perfectly natural position. I can pull the steering wheel right out to my chest. It is kind of vertical. It's not like one of those tilted steering wheels that feel a little bit weird. I mean, this steering wheel shape is a little bit off in my opinion. It's not as sort of square as the Kia Tasman steering wheel, but it's getting there. It's got like a flat top and bottom. All of your usual controls on the steering wheel as well, which is great. And then up on the dash, you've got this kind of triple screen layout. Digital gauge cluster, you can configure the displays there. But you've got the little climate control pod here. It's actually separated. It's not one blended screen. So it is kind of two bars there. But having that there, I think, is a really good move, because, I mean, although it is blocked by the steering wheel a little bit, once you know it's there, it's, you know it's there. But it just means that you don't have to dig around into the main touchscreen. So you could have maps running, or sat-nav or whatever running. Some vehicles you've got to get out of the maps and then go into climate control and play around. I mean, you do have those buttons down there anyway, but it is good that you know, air conditioning button and whatever, change the direction of the air straight away in that little pod. You don't have to worry about diving into the screen. I think that's a good idea. And then up at the back, I'm not a huge fan of the vertical handle. I mean, it just makes the panel look nice and clean, but it's just a bit weird to grab, at least initially, until you get used to it. You've got a nice amount of space and good presentation. Even flip down armrests with twin cup holders, twin climate vents so you can direct the air to either side, twin USB-C charging ports, and a little pocket for your phone. And look at all that legroom. This is definitely one of the biggest hatchbacks in this class, in my opinion. My head's nowhere near the ceiling, and this has even got the sunroof, which, you know, they usually take up a bit of space. It does sort of drop down a bit towards the back, but that's where your head goes, and yeah, there's plenty. My head's nowhere near the ceiling. I think if you're quite tall, you'd still fit in here okay. I mean, you've got to watch your head as you're getting in compared with an SUV, but yeah, once you're in, I think this is one of the most spacious, if not the most spacious hatchbacks in its class. My knees are nowhere near the seat, the front seat there, in my seating position. Overall fit and finish and build quality seems pretty good. I mean, you do have some scratchy plastic along the door, but then you've got this padded section on there. So they're trying to divide it up a little bit. The white highlights there to match the front. But yeah, overall for this price, I think it's pretty good value, and your expectations, you know, are going to match what you're getting here, I think, anyway. And up at the back, I think you do have better practicality in the hatchback compared with the sedan, because you've got a nice wide opening mouth there to start with, but you can also pop down the rear seats, and you've pretty much got a miniature wagon and just, yeah, feed through furniture or whatever you want. So definitely more practicality, I think, with the hatchback compared with the sedan. You've also got a little bit more space compared with the old Cerato GT hatchback, about 10 litres more in this. So this has got about 438 litres compared with 428 in the old model. You do have some hooks that you can, you know, hang your shopping on, and some tie down points. And under the floor, you've got a space saver spare wheel, which is a little bit unfortunate, given that most Kia products, in the recent past at least, always came with a full-size spare. So I mean, space saver is better than a tyre repair kit, in my opinion, because at least you can change it and get on the road, whereas a tyre repair kit, you kind of got to rely on it working, and if you've got a puncture in the sidewall or something like that, you're not going to get a repair kit to fix it. Whereas with another wheel, you can just put that on. Doesn't matter what happened to the other tyre, you can put that on, at least get out of harm's way, get to a tyre shop and get it fixed up. All right, let's go for a drive and see how it goes. Interested in that new 8-speed automatic compared with the dual clutch. And again, I'm going to try not to, you know, compare too much with the old Cerato GT, but also just kind of highlight the differences if you are stepping out of a Cerato GT and considering one of these. Just firstly, in terms of fuel consumption, I'm averaging 8.7 litres per 100 at the moment in the real world. That's over a distance of 570 kilometres. That has included performance testing, but even before performance testing, it was about 8.3. So yeah, I think in the real world, you could expect in the 7s with extended regular use. That was with a lot of highway driving as well, actually, as well as just running about in town. So a good sort of mixture, but the performance testing would have thrown it out a little bit. So I think you could expect mid to low 7s in the real world with normal driving. Now you do have a number of different driving modes to help you out as well. Just a little button on the steering wheel: Eco, Normal and Sport. Eco just makes it a bit more sort of sluggish, I guess is the best way to describe it. So it kind of encourages you to push the pedal kind of less, even though it sort of works in reverse because you end up pushing it more, but it doesn't give you the response of the normal mode, or at least the sport mode, which could save you fuel in the long run if you just drove to work and back in eco mode compared with in sport mode. But in sport mode, there's no sort of extra popping and banging from the exhaust or anything like that, and obviously no adaptive dampers or any of that sort of technology. But yeah, the throttle response is definitely amped up a little bit, so you only have to push your foot a little bit and it will shift down a gear as well. The shift pattern has changed, just makes it a more sporty drive. Again though, this is not meant to be a hot hatch. This is just a mild hatch or an intermediate hot hatch. Very good handling with the new K4. I think Kia has done a fantastic job, especially being the GT line. The reason I say that is that it is a little bit softer than the old Cerato GT. But as I said, that some people might have found that a bit too firm, actually. It was fun and it was definitely handled really well, but maybe a little bit too firm for something that wasn't an outright, you know, super hot hatch or anything like that. It was just a GT. Whereas with the GT line, it's definitely softer, but it's still got that kind of rubbery tautness to it, where it's just, yeah, bracing the body. There's not too much body roll. The low profile tires obviously help a little bit as well, but it feels good. I think this is the perfect balance for a you know, real world car, an everyday package. Just push it a bit harder going down here. There's a few bumps that you might not see on camera, but see, that's just ironing them over all the bumps beautifully. It's not disturbing the balance of the body. It's just staying committed, And yeah, you've got those the gear shifts just hanging there waiting for you to keep pushing it. So in normal mode it would obviously upshift a bit earlier. Alright, we'll push it a bit harder. I've got the ESC turned off. You just hold the button down for a good 2 or 3 seconds. There is a bit of sort of rev hang I've found, like even in the normal mode. I've got it in sport mode now, but even in normal mode you sort of accelerate and you back off, and that was, you know, just keeps going a little bit. But then conversely, when you put your foot down at certain RPM, it kind of lags a little bit. Like now I've got half throttle, come on, and then it sort of picks up. It's not really turbo lag, but it's just, I think it's been engineered in there on purpose to help with fuel economy, because it seems to be where you put your foot most of the time on the throttle, as in throttle application, sorry, the most common areas of throttle application just getting around town, it seems to be sluggish. But then when you push your foot just that little bit more, you get better response and all the power. But it goes pretty good, even though it does, it has dropped 8 kilowatts over the GT, the previous GT. Still goes quite nicely. I like the way that there's no fake sounds coming through into the cabin. It's just the natural 1.6 engine sound, the turbo. Can't really hear a turbo whistle or anything like that, but there is a bit of a bassy note from the tailpipe, as you'll hear in the upcoming external shots. Yeah, it's got like a bit of anger to it. Seems to go all right. And on the highway, it picks up quite well with this 8-speed automatic. Obviously more ratios, more torque at certain speeds. You can just lean on the throttle a little bit and it will just, yeah, boost you along quite nicely. There's the driver monitoring camera going off, telling me that I need to have a stop and have a coffee. So usually I put tape over these cameras because at the moment I've got it turned off, but it will still sort of interact and try to encourage you to do certain things, which is really annoying. If I've got everything turned off, just stay off. Going back down, I'll try out the manual mode. So you just flick the shifter over to the right. Then you've got paddle shifters behind the steering wheel, plus minus. Look, it's not as snappy as the old dual clutch, or any dual clutch really for that matter, but it is still giving me engagement. It doesn't blip the throttle on the downshifts, and it's reasonably responsive. I mean, it's still a torque converter automatic, so it's never going to upshift like a DCT, but at least you do have paddles so you can have a play around if you're on a nice winding road like this one. Yeah, so that's not really blipping the throttle, it's just sort of putting it down a gear. Decent differential in the front. It's a, you know, it's not a hardcore limited slip diff or anything like that, but it's not letting away inside wheel spin, even if I put the throttle down the worst of times. Full throttle. It's just gripping up and propelling me away from the corner nicely. Little chirp then, just from the inside wheel, but nothing major. That's full throttle. Just getting a little bit of wheel spin, not too much though, it's not out of control. Yeah, really good handling from this package. I think it's a very balanced hatchback overall. Like, it's not too fast, not too powerful. It's got more than enough traction, very braced, even over, you know, ordinary country roads like this. It's not bucking me around and, you know, changing the direction of the vehicle by hitting bumps. It's just absorbing the bumps where it needs to, providing comfort as well. I think this is a yeah, very balanced machine. And we can just go back to the normal mode, or eco mode even, normal mode, and just drive this as a very practical hatchback. It's not too noisy. As I said, the comfort is really good. I think it's an excellent hatchback. If you're in the market for this sort of thing, definitely worth checking out one of these. So is this better than the Cerato GT? Look, it depends where your expectations are. It's not as sporty, I'll just say that straight up, because it's not as loud, it doesn't have the dual clutch transmission, the suspension isn't as firm. But I think the way they've gone here, it's going to appeal to a wider audience. So if you are after a sporty hatch, this is going to be appealing. If you just want a practical hatch or a flagship top of the range model, then this is going to be appealing because it comes with all the features. Still has that sporty look on the outside. I mean, design is a subjective thing, but I think this does look very modern, and it's got that kind of shooting brake appeal to it in hatchback form, of course, and in this color it really stands out. So yeah, I think it is a better overall product than the old Cerato GT. It's a bit more refined as well. If Kia does a GT version of this, I think that'll be awesome, because it definitely has good foundations. Tighten up the suspension a little bit, give it a little bit more power, because I feel like this chassis can definitely handle more power, and you'd have yourself a really good quality hot hatchback. All right, let's head off now and do the performance test and see how it goes.